All right, friends, it's T and I'm back with another video. JasonBlaha, strength and fitness friends, the TRT slave, my friends, the steroid slave. So he's gonna do some gear talk, Q&A part 12, 27, 2023, broski, yeah. Let's review this gear talk. I love to hear him. As you know, he already admitted that he's taking steroids. That's why he's creating that artificial cosmetic look on steroids, working really hard at it.
Hey everybody, it's JasonBlaha here, and by request, I decided to go ahead and do Gear Talk Q&A. I took a handful of questions out of a thread I posted the other day, and I'm like, let's go ahead and sit down.
It's all created to impress you. But I don't see the numbers moving up in his sub count. I guess it's not so impressive. All right.
I'm going to answer these. Let's see if it's popular or not, and if the followers like it. And I'm going to try to keep this mature.
He's done these before, man. He just stopped doing these. Remember, he used to answer these questions.
Rational. And I want to state up front, though, that this is not intended as a replacement for medical advice. When in doubt, consult your medical doctor. I do not endorse or advocate people use any sort of controlled substance outside of the care of a medical physician.
The lighting's very good, so you could see him really good in that corner. He loves that lighting. He's gonna hit you with the best lighting and the best look that he can. These dumbbells and the way he looks in that lighting on his TRT. Maybe even put on some, who knows, maybe put on some of that baby oil. Shine it up a bit.
Nor do I advocate that people break the law, so...
Oh yeah, it looks like baby oil on there. It's all shined up, all prepped and pretty, yep.
Let's hop right into some of the questions. Jason, if a guy in his 40s that has been training for over a decade is on true TRT levels in the high normal range, has good blood work, eats a good diet, and lives a healthy lifestyle, wants to add a conservative dose of an anabolic to his TRT to enhance his physique, what would you recommend? This assumes that he is at a healthy body fat percentage with visible abdominals and has reached his natural limit with muscle mass.
Here we go. I love this. I reached my natural limit according to muscle mass. I told all of you before in my channel, there's two types of hypertrophy. There is myofibrillar hypertrophy and sarcoplasmic. Myofibrillar hypertrophy would be somebody that is periodically lifting. But it could also happen in an adaptation when you lift much heavier. In other words, like it says in science, unfamiliar forms. If your muscle is unfamiliar to lifting something heavier that it's never lifted before, you would get an ultrastructural muscle injury to those fibers. Yeah, and get a donation of these satellite cells, and then they get mass, they get bigger. When protein synthesis exceeds this breakdown. But sarcoplasmic has no limit. Nothing controls it. It has no limit. It can keep going, providing glycogen synthesis exceeds that breakdown.
Keep in mind, guys, there is no true natural limit. That's a misnomer.
I will agree. There is no true natural limit. What is that limit? See what I mean? He's fabricating it because he doesn't understand the mechanics, how to get over these things, what controls these things. So he'll just make up something and say, well, I want to take a drug because, you know, I reached my mass limit or something. It's all fabricated.
In the sense of it's a dramatic diminished returns that will eventually scale with hormones and IGF-1 and everything in the body. You can still keep gaining ounces of muscle per year, even at a certain point. But I do.
Yes, you can. You can get ounces of fake muscles, these artificial muscle growth, through sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, providing that glycogen synthesis exceeds that breakdown. It's really simple.
I kind of get what you're saying. Personally, it's going to echo what I said in the video about masters lifters, probably a very low dose of primobolan.
Here's the thing. In DOMS, they say that in sports, you get this ultrastructural muscle injury when you do things that you're unfamiliar with in sports. Can you build a muscle if you get damaged running or, I don't know, playing football, basketball, doing these sports or swimming? When you get these damaged muscle fibers, can you build muscle in sports? Of course you can. Protein synthesis must exceed that breakdown, and those new cells will mass up. They'll get bigger.
Or master on. All right, the problem with that, though, being said, you're going to have to monitor E2, because if you're on a true TRT amount and you throw in even 200 milligrams of one of those, your estrogen may go.
You know, you can use a lot of things as a catalyst to try to lift heavier, but I would say that your natural strength is better to focus on your natural strength. Look, it works like this. So you build muscle. Okay, protein synthesis exceeds this breakdown, so now you're kind of anabolic. So there's nothing interfering with the myocytic androgen receptor. This catabolic hormone converts to an androgen, doesn't interfere with that. Okay, there's nothing competing. And so now you got more strength now. You got more strength, plus you're building muscle. You've gotten now much more naturally stronger with every time you come back, you're getting naturally stronger, providing protein synthesis exceeds this breakdown. And you get a donation of these nuclei to the cracks and the domes and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Now you want to mass up these fibers. You take a whole week to mass them up. You come back, you're stronger. Physically, you're anabolic. There's nothing interfering. And so you want to constantly strive to lift heavier at a higher repetition range, very heavy or heavier, so you can break down the weaker muscle fibers, and then they will get a donation, and there's a structural damage, and then they get bigger, better, stronger, and faster. That's how it works in the natural world. You don't need these drugs. They're all fantasy and fake. They're not going to, listen to me, they're not going to break those muscles for you. Okay? You got to do it. They're not going to do it for you. But I will tell you this, though. The one advantage steroids have is they can increase strength. Like I told you, that androgen receptor part, when you're anabolic, it kind of turns it off naturally if you do that with the protein synthesis. So they've done that with the molecule. They've added more molecules, giving them this forced production, this phony forced production. You can use that phony forced production to your advantage on steroids to damage the weaker muscle fibers. But the problem is a lot of these people are chronic lifters. Like I read before in that powerlifting thing, they never gave a chance for these split fibers to repair and remodel, so they lost them. They fork and get fucked up. And that happens with these bodybuilders. They're adapted now, repeated bout effect phenomena, protects muscle from any damage. So you're a chronic lifter, you're getting sarcoplasmic muscles. You just are not realizing it in your head. I'm not saying that these bodybuilders or lifters did not get some new adaptations, maybe 2 or 3 times after that. But then at some point they stay at that level. They don't exceed that lift. They don't exceed their lifts anymore. They don't go higher up. And here's another thing. They're not doing higher repetitions. For a muscle to cause damage, it needs to be overworked in an unfamiliar state. That's the whole point, overworking it. That's why I say high. That's why high repetition, heavy weight. That's the point.
So you're gonna have to adjust some stuff based on that. But the upside, if you're on true TRT, you're probably getting blood work regularly enough you can monitor it.
Yeah.
And meaning, in other words, even that minimal dose they prescribe to older men.
Anadrol is a type of is a very powerful steroid. Probably one of the most powerful steroids out there, Anadrol 50, and it could be toxic, but not as toxic. They find out it's not as toxic as other drugs. I think norandrolone is probably the most toxic steroid out there. I knew somebody in a gym. He was a high schooler. He was taking Stenox. He started bleeding from the nose. Fucking nasty. Killed his liver and everything. His kidneys. It's just not worth it, man. Some of the people don't know what they're doing out there, so they take these orals because they figure, well, I have access to orals. But orals, the reason why people inject is because the toxicity. It moves at a slower rate, but it's so much more toxic when you're taking these pills, and they'll just destroy your liver and kidney. I mean, they're literally will destroy your health.
50 milligrams a day. Your real concern with keeping in mind, I want context here. I generally advocate even advanced.
If someone was doing their first cycle, would you do the standard 500 test a week, bro, cycle, or do you need? Why do people think that you need? Why do they keep thinking they need a higher dose to build muscle? The higher dose really is so that you can lift a heavier weight and cause damage, but they're not thinking that in their head. They're so stupid. They're thinking if I take a higher dose, it's going to build a muscle. They think that the steroid is going to build a muscle. Steroids are enhanced performing drugs. They do not build muscles. Satellite cells and things, they build muscles. You understand me? These ultrastructural injuries.
Relative relatively advanced users stay under a gram. Barring...
Look, I'll explain this really quick, just using some science. So, here's a PubMed thing, okay? This is in PubMed, satellite cells. You can see here it says that right here at the top. In response to injury, satellite cells are able to activate and re-enter the cell cycle, creating new cells to repair and create nascent muscle fibers while preserving a small population that can return to quiescence for future regenerative demands. So what do you need to do in response to injury? If you're not getting injured, you're not getting shit. When he said that structural damage, he wasn't wrong about structural damage, Blaha. This is the structural damage that you're looking for, exactly. They tell you this in your delayed onset muscle soreness, all the people that are trying to refute that. Delayed onset muscle soreness is a type of what? Ultrastructural muscle what? Injury. So if that is a type of ultrastructural muscle injury, what are they telling you here exactly? In satellite cells, aging, use it or lose it. They're telling you in response to injury, satellite cells are able to what? Activate, re-enter the cell cycle, creating new cells to repair and create nascent muscle fibers, preserving ... So why do you need steroids why do you need to take steroids if that's how muscle is built?
Stay under a gram.
Because you're in a hurry, you want to build these phony muscles called sarcoplasmic and then cry when you go off the TRT, the steroids, whatever. Let me tell you something. Even if you do, like he says here in this video, even if you go off these steroids, will it go away right away? No, not necessarily, not all of it, because it's still circulating in your blood. It'll be circulating in your blood for an entire year. If you took a whole bunch of dosages, they don't just go away, man. Why do you think you take a tetanus shot every 10 years? Do you think it just went away out of your blood system? It's circulating in there, bro. It's meant to stay in there for a long period of time, these steroids. That's how these steroid users get caught, because they're not able to eliminate all of it out of their blood. It's lingering around, so they got to take a masking agent.
Barring competition. Okay?
I think it was like called black ice or some shit back in the past.
Bodybuilding show, high-level powerlifting meet. Okay, fine. So,
Yeah.
250 tests plus 100 milligrams of a DHT, light, primo, or masteron. So still we end up with 350 to 400 milligrams.
Again, if you're a marijuana user, why do you keep going back and buying marijuana? Shouldn't it just work forever? Alcohol, if you wanna get stoned on alcohol, why do you keep going back and buying it? Oh, because it doesn't work. It works and then it doesn't work. It works, doesn't work. Here's nothing. When you keep taking these drugs, why don't they work so good anymore like the first time you took it? Because your body adapts to it. It's a protective thing. You're poisoning it. What is steroids? Poison. It's a poison. It's toxic. It's poison. Yeah, man, like they tell you. Just look up in Google. The steroids are toxic, okay? They're poison. You're injecting yourself with poison and you're trying to figure out what's going on here. You're poisoning yourself. Why do you think you're gonna die? Why do you think bodybuilders and powerlifters die injecting themselves with fucking steroids? Because it's poison. You're injecting yourself with poison. Why do drug users die taking poison? Because it's poison. Why do people die drinking alcohol? Because it's poison. If you poison yourself, you could die. If you poison yourself enough, you'll be dead. Get it? That's why you die. Because it's poison. This is stupid nonsense, the people out there.
Grams a week. And I know a lot of people are like, wow, that's really mild. And
Yes, it's
whether
mild.
it's bodybuilding, a photo shoot.
This is a cute one. What is this? Buffalo the way. If a guy under 40 takes to use oral occasionally, yeah, orals are very toxic. You want to poison yourself? Go ahead. Is there any validity to pursuing it? For example, days on, days off. See, all these phony people want to do everything so phony. They want phony shit. In an older video, you mentioned how testosterone unique to its anabolic by mechanism other than just directly binding to the androgen receptors. They all bind to the androgen receptors to give you that phony force production. Is this referring to free test and its ability to aromatize or something else? Well, the steroids can aromatize. Can no esters and or water-based compounds safely, effectively pin subcutaneously? I don't know. Maybe you can't. Go ask a doctor. Go ask a scientist.
A powerlifting meet. That's generally the role I see for orals. I don't like even the idea of people kickstarting a site. That's silly.
Yeah, these oral steroids, you cosmetic look, bro. You're gonna destroy yourself for cosmetics.
Let stuff build up on it.
It's crazy.
And here you said exercises.
Why are people so lazy to build muscle? They're so scared of getting these injuries. They're so scared of, oh my God, I injured my muscles. Oh my God, I got these DOMs. This is horrible. Ooh. They're such wusses and pussies when it comes to building muscle, but they just love the pump. They love the pump, bro. Gotta pump it up. More of this glycogen muscles, the phony fucking sarcoplasmic muscles, broski.
Not really valid. It really is. I think that starts falling. Person is not talking true TRT because we really aren't.
He's on TRT. He says, at what level of testosterone would you recommend someone start TRT? What do you need it for? Change your fucking diet, bro, and you'll be normal. Is there a magic number? Why are you doing this TRT for? Ask yourself this question. Why does he want to jump on? These people, they're so mentally sick, like Blaha.
I don't know that
Mentally
making
ill
educated choices, quality of life enhance that. Like if you're talking.
You can't imagine how many mentally ill people there are out there. Okay, you invite gear into your life. The whole world flips upside down and we resort back to hunter-gatherer stage. Yeah, okay. The Walking Dead, with the zombies available, how would you become so weak? And then people look at you. Yeah, that's what I would say. What this guy says, I would say if you go back to your natural way of doing things, you would never do any of these things. Let me tell you something. If you go back to your primal natural diet, I guarantee you'll be happier and you won't want to do any of this stuff. I'm telling you, it's really hard to go to a gym once you're normal, when you're back like a normal person again. You're abnormal because you're poisoning. Everything you're eating is poison out there. A lot of your food is poison because it's made from plants, and plants are poison. Anything that's made from plants is poisonous. Steroids, alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, drugs, whatever, opium, I don't know. The food in your corner store, the food in the store and everything has oxalates, poisons, and toxins, and like fucking glyphosates. It's sprayed with toxins. You're constantly poisoning yourself. So what do you expect? You're in a crazy brain. You got the crazy brain. You'll do any crazy things. What else does he say here at the bottom? He answers, that is the least of your worries at that point. Do you honestly think someone would ran gear for years doesn't have permanent changes? They don't have any permanent, there's no permanent changes from the gear. But the damage that was caused from the adaptation of lifting something heavy, definitely there is. Only one study looked at this, but they determined that it would absolutely lifetime drug-free lifters, apart from enhanced lifters, would have come off at least 3 years. Looking at muscle biopsies, there were positive changes that last 3 years, that last at least 3 years after coming off longer-term use. You still have an edge over people. Yeah, you have an edge because you have some new muscle fibers. There were structural changes. You increased your natural muscle fiber count by using a drug to lift something heavier to get new adaptations. That's what I'm advocating. That's what I'm trying to say, man. That's what's going on there. So yeah. Yeah, I'm not denying that. I'm telling people, why do you think people are taking creatine? They say, well, it's increasing my strength. It's a possibility you may get another adaptation. All right, let's hear what he has to say.
A complete collapse. Most of the population is dead in the first 6 weeks. Okay? You're still the biggest jack dude walking around. You already have a potential survival bonus over everybody.
Again, I'm not saying that none of these people grew a little bit of some natural myofibrillars, but a lot of it is sarcoplasmic because they are chronic lifters. The only way, like I said before, the only way a chronic lifter can get an adaptation is if they did something in their chronic routine that they were unfamiliar with, that they were doing, that they had never done before. Like, for example, if you've never benched and did a high repetition and a heavy bench, I'm not talking about 1 rep benches or 2 rep PRs, okay? The stupid weak shit. I'm talking about, well, one day you came out and you did 315 for like 20 reps or something, and you did it a couple of times. That definitely will cause an ultra structural muscle injury to those muscle fibers. They have to be overworked to cause these damages to it because they're resilient from being damaged. You understand me? Because as a chronic lifter, they shift to type 1 now. You're in the gym, they're in type 1 most of the time, protecting type 2s from becoming damaged. But how do you get type 2s to become damaged? Unfamiliar forms, unaccustomed, untrained, unfamiliar, gets this damage. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. So if you're not a good coach, if you don't understand these things, then how the fuck would you know how to build muscles? You have to know all the ins and outs of how to build muscles. You have to understand what these adaptations are, how do they work. I told you before, everything is based on adaptations. If you're not understanding how these things work, then you're always going to be complaining about, I got newbie gain limit, reached newbie gain, my genetic limit, I'm a hard gainer, and all this baloney shit, you know?
Else. All right. So that's a silly way to look at it. Number two, why do you think that you shrink down to weaker and smaller? Like where do you get this idea?
Hold on,
Okay. Let's set aside misconceptions. That's again a very
I like this part. Let's see the beginning of it.
individual choice that people have to make who have sovereignty of their own bodies as adults who are making an educated choice, which is kind of why we're having these discussions. All right, next question. This will be the last question. And this one prompted some further discussions that I didn't put all up. He goes, okay, you're into your life and the whole world flips upside down and we resort back to hunter-gatherer stage. This is insane. The Walking Dead without the zombies, basically, so no more gears available.
Again, why is something natural always insane in the unnatural world? The unnatural people in the natural world see people that do things natural, they see them as insane. That is insane.
How do you live before you have to become so weak that people look at you as a food source? And it's okay. You clearly don't understand anything about gear. All right. First of all,
He understands gear more than you do from that question that he's asking you. He's asking you to answer that.
in a major apocalypse like that, like if you're talking of complete collapse, most of the population is dead in the first 6 weeks. Okay, you're still the biggest jack dude walking around. You already have a potential survival bonus over everybody else.
I would not disagree with Blaha. You may and you may not. But then if a whole bunch of people gang up on you, remember, more than one is stronger. Those ants are strong in numbers. That's how they survive. They're not strong alone.
All right. So that's a silly way to look at it. Number two, why do you think that you shrink down to weaker and smaller? Like where do you get this idea?
You are shrinking to smaller. You are. Look what you're eating. Look what you're doing. Your lifestyle.
Okay. Let's.
Off steroids, you do shrink down a lot smaller. You get really small because that sarcoplasmic hypertrophy leaks out. And then if you did get any more adaptations while being on steroids, and you build some myofibrillar growth, then yes, definitely that would increase your natural strength. But what happened was, it works like a defense mechanism, steroids. It's like a defense mechanism, just like intermittent starvation diets. You release these hormones to keep you alive. So you're injecting, your body thinks it's keeping you alive. And so it's doing these things, whatever. Okay, because it thinks you're doing something weird and you need to go out there and survive and eat this animal to continue life. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know, man. It's like I said, there's some small benefits there, very tiny.
Set aside misconceptions and look at research. What does the research show on former steroid users? They're still bigger and stronger than drug-free people. Okay? We need to be very, very...
They're bigger and stronger than drug-free people. Well, if you inject something automatically, you're going to be a little bit bigger, maybe phony, sarcoplasmic, a lot of it. And will you be stronger in your lifts? Well, definitely your lifts will be stronger. Of course, you took a drug. But I don't know, in an apocalyptic situation, you're going to have a chance to inject any steroids in you if it's all fucking dead and busted.
Clear on that. All of your gains do not fade when people come off.
Oh, they eventually fade and go away. Believe me, they fade and go away. If they didn't get any structural damages, like some ultrastructural damages, some myofibrillar growth, yeah, it could go to that point. I know that when Dorian Yates, when he eventually came off completely, I noticed he was still pretty big. Like, you could see him. He was pretty big for quite a long time. But, he stopped lifting completely. And eventually, of course, your body's going to return at some point to homeostasis if you're not lifting. He wasn't lifting for the longest time. Now, he kind of got back into it because, promoting. There's money involved there. I guess he needs money. I don't know. That's why he's come back to bodybuilding again. He's doing some promotional shit, whatever. I guess he's gone on the bandwagon like everybody else. They need money to survive because he lives in Spain. It's expensive to live his lifestyle.
This is not my opinion. This has been confirmed in research, exercise science and medical research. This has been
I agree with him. Ultrastructural damages, like what I read there before.
absolutely confirmed. They looked at competitive powerlifters who had previously used anabolics for a minimum of 1 year and who had, according to their self-reports, had been off and not done a cycle in at least 3 years. They did muscle biopsies comparing them to drug-tested powerlifters who admitted that they had honestly never used, and they needed to for the research purpose. Like, look, if you've lied and really used, we can't use you. Since this is anonymous, so we need the truth. That's the best we can do in that. Do you know that they could tell them apart? They did biopsies of their trapezius muscles, right? And they found that the former users had permanent beneficial structural changes.
Okay, and they had some permanent structural changes. These changes were because they got an adaptation. I'll do this one more time, really quick, okay? So we know that a delayed onset muscles, this association of DOMS is associated with ultrastructural muscle injuries. And we know if you get an ultrastructural muscle injury, that injury is due to, in response to injury, so when the muscles get injured, in response to that injury, satellite cells are able to what? To activate and re-enter the cell cycle, creating new cells to repair and create nascent muscle fibers. You understand me? So when they lifted a heavy weight, it gives them a force production. It gives them a maximum force production. And what is that force production based on? Well, it's based on this. I don't know if this froze again. So hold on a second here. It's based on the myocytic androgen receptor. It controls the strength but not the mass of the limb muscles. Okay, man? That's what it's based on. That steroid is going to bind with that myocytic androgen receptor, which controls strength. So if more endogenous steroids bind with that receptor, then that strength must increase. Must increase. Yes. And if it increases, you can get this ultrastructural muscle injury, and you can get another adaptation. Just like it said there.
Structural changes, even 3 years after coming off. 3 years later, they had a higher muscle nuclei density. Okay?
Again, I already know this. I read that before in NCBI. It's a known fact. But they do not build muscles. They enhance your performance to cause an adaptation in these muscle injuries to the fiber, and the satellite cell will donate, like it said there. It will re-enter the cell cycle and donate its myonuclei to that domain, to the cracks in the DOMS, to repair and remodel new nascent muscle fibers. So did you increase your natural strength and body and muscle and everything? Yes, you did, using an unnatural means to do it. That's all that means. That's it.
How does muscle memory appear to work? This appears to be, according to a lot of the research, the prevailing mechanism by which...
How does muscle memory work? It's easy. That muscle cell is overseen by the myonuclear domain size limit, like I've done in all my videos, okay? So it reaches a ceiling limit during hypertrophic process, but when it atrophies, it can go back again. They call that muscle memory. I'll bring that up too as well, even. Look. Just hold on a second. They call it nuclear overload training. So this is the map that he's talking about. This muscle, this so-called muscle memory. But you can misconstrue that for sarcoplasmic hypertrophy as well, that muscle memory. Here's another problem. Okay, so this is the nuclei acquired overload. Go down here, that map, the famous map. Here we go. This is what he's talking about. So untrained, first training satellite cell, hypertrophy. These cells, hypertrophy. Get it? That's how it works. More cells, more hypertrophy. No cells, no hypertrophy. So when he's talking about detraining, atrophying, when you atrophy, this hypertrophy atrophies, the muscle density. See, notice on the untrained part and previously trained. Notice the amount of nuclei there and there. Notice that it's slightly bigger. That's the density in the muscle fibers. But what you lost was the mass. What you lost were proteins. You can add these proteins back. When protein synthesis exceeds that breakdown, that will grow back again. See, that's what he's talking about, that type of memory. But you can also misconstrue that memory with sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, that phony muscle growth. This phony, I don't know where it is now. The phony muscles. The phony muscle right here, sarcoplasmic, increase in glycogen storage. All right. It's a myo. See that little graph over there? See that graph? There you go. That's what it looks like. That's what they look like. Hypertrophy. See that hypertrophy here? Hyperplasia. Boom. Normal cells. Normal cells, hypertrophy. See the normal cells and then they hypertrophy. So yeah, that's how it works. It's a storage, glycogen storage like it says there. Anyways, let's just finish this stuff.
Which muscle memory works. That when you gain muscle fiber nuclei count, it increases. And then if
you gain muscle fibers, nascent muscle fibers. That's what you're gaining. He thinks it's just a This guy is funny when he's like, "Oh, you gain these nuclei and that's it." These nuclei are muscle cells. They're muscle fibers. They don't distinguish the difference between them in a biopsy.
Atrophy the muscle, the nuclei density goes up because the muscle fibers and cells shrink.
No. They don't just go up because you injected an enhanced performing drug. The drug enhanced your performance to lift heavier, causing more ultrastructural muscle injuries, like it says there, getting a new adaptation. Okay, man?
But all the new muscle nuclei that you acquired, which are the machinery that build the proteins.
No, that definitely helps to absorb, plus these hormones help to absorb more of this protein that you're taking in. That will definitely work, but it really absorbs a lot of glycogen. A lot of glycogen. Still, protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown in order for those muscles to hypertrophy. But it's a known fact, none of these people are getting a lot of that muscle because they're chronic lifters. And that chronic lifting, the repeat about effect protects muscle from being damaged because it's sitting in type 1. That's why some people got some ultrastructural muscle injuries a little bit. But the problem was they were chronic and they weren't periodic lifters. That's why I taught people before in the gym, these guys that were on steroids, I said, bro, you need to be a chronic lifter if you want to grow some real muscles on steroids. And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, I'm lifting, I'm getting bigger. You're getting sarcoplasmic hypertrophy as a chronic lifter because it shifts into type 1 to protect type 2 from getting damaged as a chronic lifter lifting in the gym. So even if you did lift heavier, you did a lot there in your work, whatever you're doing as a chronic lifter, the repeated bout effect is protective because it's sitting in type 1, but you chronically lifting, and these type 2s are not getting these ultrastructural muscle injuries. You need to be, like I said, but if you do something sometimes you're unfamiliar with, too much of something, let's say you did a lot of something that you were so unfamiliar with, you may get these adaptations. They can happen in a person that is already chronically lifting, okay? That is an endurance. You're an endurance athlete. Endurance, look, chronic, periodic. Endurance, chronic. Periodic, ultrastructural muscle injuries. It's really simple, bro. So yeah, it's not hard to understand these things.
Okay? They stay. So then when you go to regain muscle later, you build it faster.
They stick around for a while, but I don't know how long they could. They could go back to homeostasis. Can you rebuild them faster on steroids? Yeah. Can you build them faster if you eat protein synthesis exceeds this breakdown? Yeah, if you built something real. See what I mean?
There are, according to what the researchers found, permanent structural changes in your muscle tissue. You have an advantage, at least from what we can tell, if not a lifetime, a minimum of a 3-year advantage. That's what the research shows, at least 3 years.
Okay, and so what? And so what? Yeah. Did you ever, but the point is this, Blaha, never mind them. Did you ever build any muscle fibers using these drugs? No, you did not.
Okay, there is no, I'm now natty after having been enhanced. There are permanent changes. So
That's not true, because as a natural, you could get these adaptations too. Does that mean that you're not natty either because you caused some ultrastructural muscle injuries because you figured out how to hack it by being a periodic lifter as opposed to a chronic lifter? Does that make you not natty too? Does that make me not natty? So when I walk on the street now and I look fucking massive at 285 walking down the street, and everybody looking at me because I was a chronic lifter as opposed to a fucking fake fucking sarcoplasmic lifter, fucking endurance lifter coming in chronically lifting. Does that make me fake too, Blaha? Does that make me fake, Blaha?
using that logic,
If I built it naturally, these muscle fibers through ultrastructural muscle injuries, like it says there, does that make me fake, Blaha?
see the problem with your question? No, you're not going to be weaker and
See the problem with your question? These drugs do not build muscles, bro. They don't build anything. Marijuana doesn't build muscles, alcohol, steroids, none of these fucking plant toxins build anything. If anything, you're just destroying your health slowly. Because you're chasing a pipe dream.
you are still going to potentially have the potential to be the biggest, strongest dude in the jungle.
Yes, you may be big and strong, but you have destroyed your own production of your testosterone in your Leydig cells, your testicles. So when you do go natural off these drugs, guess what's going to happen to you? You definitely cause some permanent changes, structural changes. And guess what one of them are? Destroyed liver and kidneys. Body parts, your heart now hypertrophied and shrank. It got fucked up now too. These are all nice, beautiful, permanent changes from the steroids. Guess what else? You may get something else that you don't want, some other weird diseases in there because of the toxicity. You have DNA damage now. You also have damaged your thyroid, may be damaged, the thyroid hormones. The endocrine system may be damaged as well, the entire endocrine system, as well as your testicles. They have shrunk down to peanuts, and they're not producing testosterone. That's why you're all crying, going, I gotta go on TRT, because the steroids, they shrunk the shit out of my balls. They caused some permanent fucking structural damages, all right? Some that are never gonna return. They went into the abyss, bro.
That's not how it works.
That's not how it works? What are you talking about? That's exactly how it works.
All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you.
Yes, it was very informative, but you don't know anything. You're a shitty coach, man. See you in the next one. Like, subscribe, support the channel, comment down below. Helps with the algorithm, broski. I'll see you in the next one. If you did not learn anything in this session, what I explained to you, then you should not subscribe to my channel, and you should go continue on your fake path and subscribe to your fake loser fucking influencers out there, and fuck off, get off my channel. Go and keep continuing in failure. I enjoy that, okay? See you in the next one. Ciao.